here's the most interesting point. When you overcome a test, it's not just your faith that grows, but also your confidence that you can face anything with God by your side. James knew this. He wasn't talking about something theoretical. He understood the weight of difficulties, but he also knew that every victory brought a stronger conviction that God is faithful. Look at examples like Job. He lost everything and faced pain that seems unbearable to imagine. But in the end, his faith was rewarded with something greater than he could have anticipated. God didn't just restore what Job had lost, he multiplied it. This is what James is talking about. Tests don't just take you to your limits. They open doors to blessings you never expected. And speaking of blessings, have you ever noticed how trials also make you more sensitive to the struggles of others? When you go through a tough time and overcome it, something inside you changes. You learn to appreciate more, to empathize, and this makes you an even more effective instrument in God's hands. Now, think about this. What happens if you give up halfway? It's like quitting a race just a few meters before the finish line. You'll never see the result, never experience the fruit of that perseverance. James reminds us that God doesn't waste any tear. If you stay strong, He will show you the purpose behind every situation. So the next time you feel the weight is too much, remember this. It's not the end. It's not in vain. Every trial is an opportunity for God to show how He can transform, restore, and do something extraordinary in your life. It's challenging, but what's on the other side is worth every second. But here's something most people forget. Tests aren't just about what you're going through. They're about who you're becoming. James says perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. This means that in the middle of the difficulty, God is building something in you with eternal purpose. Think of how a sculptor works. He starts with a rough block, and little by little he chips away at everything that isn't part of the final masterpiece. Each strike seems destructive, but it's necessary to reveal the true beauty hidden inside. Trials are exactly this. They're not there to break you, but to remove what's preventing you from becoming everything you were created to be. And if you still have doubts about why all of this is happening, just look at what happens when the trials are over. You don't just come out stronger. You come out with a testimony that can inspire, encourage, and strengthen others. When someone looks at your story and sees that you overcame what seemed impossible, they see God's faithfulness reflected in your life. And here's the most incredible part. God doesn't ask you to face the trials alone. He promises to be with you every step of the way. That means that even in the hardest moments when you feel like you're at your limit, He's right there by your side, sustaining, strengthening, and giving you peace that goes beyond understanding. So, if you're facing something now, remember, this is not the end. It's just part of the process. And on the other side, God has already prepared something greater than you could ever expect. It's not just about what you're going through. It's about what you're becoming. And when you finally get through this phase, something curious happens. You realize that the trials didn't take away anything truly essential from you. On the contrary, they added to you. Maybe at first you felt lost, but now you can clearly see that it was this very process that gave you strength, wisdom, and an unwavering faith. James talks about perseverance needing to be complete, like a work of art that can only be admired when it's finished. And that completeness is what makes us whole, ready for anything. It doesn't mean we'll never face challenges again, but when they come, we'll be firm enough to face them without fear, because we know that God is working in and through us. But here's the catch. Each trial you overcome is also an opportunity to glorify God. When people see your endurance, your trust, and especially your joy in the midst of difficulties, they begin to wonder where that strength comes from. And it's in that moment that your life becomes a living message. It's not about showing perfection, but about pointing to the one who is sustaining you. That's what makes trials so valuable. They're not just about you. What God is doing in your life, He's also using to impact those around you. Your family, your friends, even people you don't know can be touched by what God is building through each difficult moment you face with faith and perseverance. In the end, the question changes. Instead of asking, Why did God allow this? You start asking, what does God want to do with this? And that shift in perspective is powerful because it takes you out of the victim role and puts you in the center of God's plan. That's when trials stop being burdens and become springboards for something much bigger. And then, as you begin to understand this process, something amazing happens. You realize that you're not only becoming stronger, but you're also becoming wiser. The wisdom gained through perseverance isn't shallow, it's deep and practical. You start to discern when it's time to act with calmness, trust more in God, and know when it's time to move forward with courage. Difficulties teach. You and the wisdom learned in trials becomes divine guidance for all areas of your life. As you walk through this, the true transformation begins. It's not just about learning how to handle problems better. It's about learning to trust God fully, to depend on Him in every moment, and to understand that He's always in control. Perseverance isn't just a skill to endure. It's about growing and evolving as you walk. And every time you place your trust in God, your faith becomes stronger, more solid. Now imagine the long-term impact of this. When you persevere, you're not just building a strong spiritual foundation. You're also cultivating an inner peace that defies any external circumstance. This is what James is reminding us. True peace doesn't come from the absence of problems, but from the assurance that, even in the midst of difficulties, you are not alone. God is with you, and He already has a plan to guide you through any storm. What happens then is that as you grow in this trust, your vision of the future changes. You no longer fear what lies ahead because you know that God uses even the toughest situations to prepare you for something greater. You begin to see trials not as burdens but as preparations for the grand plans He has for you. In the end, perseverance, wisdom, and trust in God come together to create an unshakable spirit. The one who once feared the future now looks ahead with hope, knowing that every trial faced is an opportunity to experience God's faithfulness in a deeper way. And as James teaches us, this leads to a level of spiritual maturity that can't be reached any other way. God doesn't put you to the test to break you, but to make you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what He has in store for you. And when you reach this point, the conclusion becomes clear. Perseverance is not a burden, but a powerful tool that God uses to shape you. It doesn't just prepare you for the future, it transforms your perspective on life. Every trial you face, every difficulty you overcome, brings you closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. God doesn't test you to see you fall. He tests you to see you grow, learn, and ultimately become more like Him. The true beauty of perseverance is that it doesn't end when the trial is over. It leaves a lasting mark on your life. You can look back at the hardest moments and instead of only remembering the pain, you'll recall how God sustained you and enabled you to keep moving forward. What seemed impossible now stands as a testimony of God's power in your life. And that's exactly what James invites us to experience. He doesn't say that trials will be easy, but that they have a divine purpose. When you understand this, difficulties are no longer something to be feared. They become, in fact, opportunities to grow, to draw closer to God, and to witness His power in a deeper way. Perseverance gives you a firmer faith, a more confident trust, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. Now, instead of being someone who simply goes through difficulties, you become a living example of how faith in God can transform any situation. And that's what God wants from you, for your life to be a reflection of His faithfulness and power. You're not just going through trials, you're being prepared for something greater, something God has planned for you from the beginning. So, look at your life with new eyes. Every trial you face is an opportunity to experience more of God, to see His purpose at work, and to strengthen your faith. Perseverance takes you to a place where you not only overcome adversity, but emerge from it stronger, wiser, and better prepared for the purpose God has for you. And when you finally understand this process, something extraordinary happens. The trials no longer seem like obstacles, but like stepping stones toward your true purpose. Each challenge you face, each difficulty you overcome, brings you closer to the person God intended you to be. And the amazing part is, you realize that the struggles weren't just about testing your faith. They were about transforming your heart. James isn't telling us that trials will be easy. He's not saying that everything will always be comfortable, but he's reminding us that when we persevere, something far greater is being accomplished in us than we could ever imagine. Perseverance is the key to spiritual growth. It's what allows you to walk through life with a steady, unshakable faith, no matter what comes your way. What's even more amazing is that the endurance you gain through these trials doesn't just benefit you, it becomes a testimony to others. Your story of overcoming adversity, trusting God, and growing through the toughest moments becomes a light to those around you. They'll see in you a reflection of God's faithfulness, and through you, they may come to know Him better. God doesn't put you to the test to break you, but to build you up. Every trial is an opportunity to discover more about who He is and how He works in your life. And when you come out on the other side, you'll have a deeper understanding of His character and a stronger faith to face whatever challenges come next. So, instead of viewing trials as something to avoid, see them as opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to trust God more deeply, and to become more of the person He's calling you to be. When you embrace the process, you'll find that the reward isn't just the outcome, but the transformation that happens within you along the way. And as you reach this point, a powerful realization begins to dawn. The perseverance you've built through trials has not only made you stronger, but has prepared you to face life's challenges with unwavering faith. You're no longer the same person you were before the tests began. You've become someone who knows that no matter what comes your way, you have the strength and trust in God to overcome it. James doesn't just speak about perseverance as something to endure. He speaks of it as a process that shapes your character, refining you in ways that nothing else can. You emerge from these trials as someone more resilient, more grounded in faith, and more aligned with God's will for your life. The journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. And as you continue on this path, you'll find that the challenges you once feared no longer have the same power over you. Because you've experienced God's faithfulness through every trial, you know that whatever comes next, He will be with you. This confidence in God's provision and presence allows you to face life's hardships with peace and assurance that you'll come through them stronger than before. But the transformation doesn't stop with you. As you continue to grow, your story becomes a beacon of hope for others. People will look at your life and see how God has sustained you through the trials, and it will inspire them to trust God in their own struggles. Your perseverance, your faith, and your testimony will serve as a light to others who are facing their own battles. So the next time you're faced with a challenge, remember, it's not the end. It's part of God's plan to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for what's ahead. As you persevere, you become not just stronger, but more aligned with the purpose He has for you, and more capable of reflecting His love and faithfulness to the world around you. And when you reach this point, the conclusion becomes crystal clear. Perseverance isn't a burden, but a powerful tool that God uses to shape you. It doesn't just prepare you for what's ahead, it transforms your perspective on life. Every trial you face, every difficulty you overcome brings you closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. God doesn't put you to the test to see you fall. He tests you to help you grow, learn, and ultimately become more like Him. The true beauty of perseverance is that it doesn't end when the trial is over. It leaves a lasting mark on your life. You can look back at the hardest moments, and instead of just remembering the pain, you'll recall how God sustained you and gave you the strength to keep going. What seemed impossible now stands as a testimony of God's power in your life. And that's exactly what James is inviting us to experience. He's not saying that trials will be easy, but that they have a divine purpose. When you understand this, difficulties are no longer something to fear. They become, in fact, opportunities to grow, to draw closer to God, and to witness His power in a deeper way. Perseverance gives you a firmer faith, a more confident trust, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. Now, instead of being someone who simply goes through trials, you become a living example of how faith in God can transform any situation. And that's what God wants from you, for your life to reflect His faithfulness and power. You're not just going through difficulties, you're being prepared for something greater, something God has planned for you from the very beginning. So, Look at your life with new eyes. Every trial you face is an opportunity to experience more of God, to see His purpose at work, and to strengthen your faith. Perseverance takes you to a place where you not only overcome adversity, but come out stronger, wiser, and better prepared for the purpose God has for you.